With the new Hunger Games out on the big screen now, let's look back and let's rank all the Hunger Game movies right now. Number 5 is Mockingjay Part 2. Now, for me, this is the weakest one out of the Hunger Games movies. There's simple reasons to why. I feel like the whole third act of this movie is quite messy at times. It's kind of all over the place, and you're kind of sitting there like, what? Why is this decision happening? Why is this happening? Why is Katniss making this decision? Why are they all making this decision? What is actually going on here? And then obviously the big reveal as well, as the president that is part of the rebellion is basically just wanting Snow's power. So you have that whole twist going on, which I'm not a huge fan of because it kind of diminishes the whole main objective as, overthrowing the whole capital and everything like that. It's basically the capital v the capital at that point, and it's kind of like, why are we doing that? Also, I feel like the other movies do things a lot stronger than this movie did. While I still like this movie, I just feel like it's definitely the weakest one for me. So, for me, number 5 is Mockingjay Part 2. Number 4 is the original Hunger Games movie, and I quite like the original Hunger Game movie. It's the one that started it all. You get that violent moment where they're all in their games, they're all killing each other, kids going at it, and it's just like an eye-opener. It's got a good story behind it as well. This is where we start to get some of the lore behind the Hunger Games, where it goes, why it's around. And we also have the idea of the society element to it, where, you got to put up a fake front, which is very reminiscent to today's society, where you put up a fake front to showcase, look, I'm happy and everything like that. Like, I'm here for the show, making people like you. But behind the scenes is a complete opposite person. And that's what happens with Peter and Katniss throughout this whole entire movie. It's about their relationship, trying to make people like them, pretending to be in love for the sake of the cameras. So it has a lot of parallels with today's society, but I also like how we get introduced to our characters. The whole reason why the whole Hunger Games thing happens with Katniss is because she volunteers to save her sister. So you have that dynamic going on as well. I thought, the set's great. The whole visual effects look great. The costumes look great. And it was really a good introduction to this world that we're going to now take 4 or 5 movies in. We got our first look at President Snow as well and what he's, sort of about. And the Hunger Games itself was actually really fun. Like, it really was. And the different creatures, different environments. To me, that was all great. And we got a little insight to what could potentially be going on moving forward. So for me, I enjoyed it, and that's why I've got the original Hunger Games in at number 4. Number 3 is Mockingjay Part 1. Now, I enjoyed this movie a lot as well, and what I like about this movie is it's not really a hardcore action movie. It's not really about the Hunger Games. What this is really about is the rise of the rebellion. It's about getting the face, getting the Mockingjay on our side as the rebellion, and then bringing and rallying all the districts together to overthrow the one enemy, which is the capital. And I like that aspect of this movie, the psychological warfare that's going on between the capital and the rebellion. I really enjoy that stuff. And I will never ever forget the shot where they're standing up there and there's the bones, man. Just the charred bones of people. And then you're hearing Gale's story about how they only got 915 people out of 10,000 people out of District 12 before it got bombed. So that was all insane. This is where you start to get pulled on the heartstrings because of you start to see just how brutal the capital are and what President Snow's willing to do to hold on to power. So I really like that aspect. What I also loved is the capital using Peter against Katniss and showcasing him, torturing him, giving you this idea of Peter's in the capital and they're making him do whatever they want. They're torturing him. They're, changing his memories around to try and portray Katniss as an evil person towards him and blame everything on her so that when they do capture him and bring Peter back, this is where Peter starts to turn on Katniss because he doesn't quite, everything's all jumbled up. So I love that all aspect, and I love when Katniss goes to the actual war zones and actually is there seeing everything for the first time. So I really enjoy Mockingjay Part 1. I think it's definitely the better part than Part 2, easily for me. So for me, number 3, Mockingjay Part 1. Number 2 is The Hunger Games Catching Fire. This was the sequel to the original Hunger Games, and I think what this movie does really well is it takes elements of the first Hunger Games and elevates it in every single way. As some people have said, this is the Empire Strikes Back to the New Hope. This one is the one that takes it to that next level. You know, this is the quarterly games. This is where all the tributes who did win, the victors, now go in and compete again instead of getting new ones. So if you're the people that were getting ready to, you know, get your name called, you got away with that one, didn't you? So we see Peter and Katniss go back into it. This is where we get introduced to one of my favorite characters in the Hunger Games, Finnick, who I absolutely love. And in this movie, I thought he was absolutely superb. And to me, adding those characters like him and Joanna, who don't really have much else to do once this movie's over. They're really just on the sideline for majority of it. They are really good. Joanna's like this character that's, you know, F the capital, I will never bow down to you, I will not do this. She will tell you how it is. And then you got Finnick, who's comes off as this guy when you feel like, I'm going to hate this guy. But when you get into the Hunger Games, you actually like him. So I like the supporting cast that they brought in that really elevated it. The games itself were absolutely insane. And they led to, you know, misdirect after misdirect with the Game Master and certain things happening to where they got Katniss out of there. So I really enjoyed that whole aspect as well. And it looked gorgeous as well. I really did. And I like the strategic element of the Hunger Games in this one. Trying to figure out, is the clock, how are we going to escape, what's going to happen. Really like that. Also like the stuff that was dealing with Katniss and Peter as well in this movie. Where, you know, they're basically saying like, we're getting married, we're having kids, you know, all this stuff's happening. So everything's happening behind the, you know, in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, it's not quite a fairy tale yet. But that's why I love Catching Fire, because it takes all those elements of the first Hunger Games and elevates it to another level. So for me, number 2 is Catching Fire. Number 1, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the movie, the newest one, The Rise of Snow, Cornelia Snow, and I really like this movie. Number 1 is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The newest one, The Rise of Snow. And for me, this one is the strongest one out of the Hunger Games. I am a sucker for a villain origin story. And that's what this is. This is all about Snow. What made Snow become the person he is in the Hunger Games? Why is President Snow the way he is? That's what this movie does. Now, yes, the third act does feel like it's a bit tacked on. It does slow the pacing of this movie down, and it does feel like a first act of another movie that was meant to be there, but it feels like they just kind of crammed it in there. So that does hinder it a bit, but everything else is great. Lucy Gray and Snow's relationship, absolutely dug everything about that, and just how we see President Snow as a war-torn child who lived through the war to having absolutely nothing, no, you know, trying to make ends meet for his family, to rising through the ranks to have a common goal, but also be this person that just cares for people as well. Like, that's the thing about this movie, is it shows Snow in a new light that we haven't seen. He actually cares. But something happens in this movie that changes that whole motivation and process that is going through his mind. And that's what I love about this movie, is it does that. It tells a tragic story about a tragic person with the events that happen in this movie. So for me, it looked gorgeous as well. I really like this movie, and I think to me, it is my favorite Hunger Games movie, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So there you have it. That is my ranking of the Hunger Games movies. Let me know down in the comment section below, how do you rank the Hunger Games movies? Maybe you guys have a different list to me, which you probably could or would. So let me know down in the comment section below. I'm very intrigued to see why and how you guys have it all differently, because that's what the beauty of talking about film is. It's all subjective and it's all different, and I love that about it. So let me know yours. Smash that like button, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe. Peace out.